Ranking Member Meeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, I have to oppose Representative Diaz-Balad's bill that directs the president to designate the Muslim Brotherhood and anyone the president deems an affiliate as a foreign terrorist organization, and specifically designated global terrorists, imposing sweeping visas and asset bans on a vast and ill-defined set of groups and individuals. You know, as my colleagues know, I don't believe that this is a new effort, but more of a politicized one that is wrapped in a kind of terrorism rhetoric. You know, one of the fundamental problems is that this legislation attempts to apply a tool designed for discrete terrorist organizations or terrorist groups to something that is not a single organization at all, but a diffuse ideology. Around the world, groups associated with the Muslim Brotherhood operate independently, spanning political partners, religious parties, I should say, religious organizations, charities, and yes, in some cases, paramilitary actors. They are not a coordinated global network. So to be clear, some offshoots do meet the criteria for terrorist designation. Some of the offshoots do meet the criteria. But we already have the tools to designate them. Hamas is one of those groups. It is already a designated foreign terrorist organization and rightly subject to numerous sanctions and measures, both executive and legislative. So instead of solving a problem, this bill creates several new ones. Internationally, it would complicate the U.S. engagement with political leaders and parties who have historic and nonviolent ties to the Brotherhood-affiliated movements, like in Morocco. It would alienate important regional partners in the Middle East, such as Qatar and Turkey. And I am also deeply concerned about the implications that this bill would have domestically. Section 2 has sweeping visa prohibitions, which amounts to me to be a backdoor Muslim ban. It could subject millions of people, including many Americans, many Muslims who live in my district, for example, to arbitrary and subjective determinations based on vague, indirect, or tangential affiliations. The language is so imprecise, this bill invites discriminatory and political targeting under the pretext of national security. You know, the Trump administration could use this bill to justify investigations, asset seizures, and even prosecutions aimed at Muslim Americans, an Arab and Muslim civil rights organization, chilling free speech and undermining constitutional rights. Moreover, this bill hands sweeping authority to the president, who just yesterday called one of our Muslim American colleagues garbage. This administration has shown a clear pattern of racist, discriminatory, and unconstitutional conduct. And if this bill were to become law, that abuse of power will only get worse. This bill also requires that any FTO or SDGT designations must remain for 4 years, a completely arbitrary time frame that provides no room for meaningful review. And that is why leading civil liberties and Muslim American organizations, including the American Civil Liberties Union, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, the Constitution Project, and the Southern Poverty Law Center have raised serious concerns. So let me be clear. We must use all the tools at our disposal to protect Americans from terrorism. And I have consistently supported designations and sanctions based on violent actions, not mere ideology or politics, and will do so again today, including for Rep. ICE's bill related to the Houthis and their continued acts of terror. And as a New Yorker, and visited Ground Zero, I was there in New York, and will never forget it after 9/11, I know there is no more sacred duty than keeping Americans safe. But I believe that this bill is the wrong approach and could be a dangerous one. And so therefore, I must be opposed to this measure. And I yield back.